Matthew Miller,
Keith, how are you?
TC26. I'm doing great. It's been decades that we've been here in this Tableau community. It's been a roller coaster, and I think of any year, we just continue to culminate year after year in this, what is Tableau doing, right? So I'm kind of on the heels of the video that we put out before the conference.
Yep, which is really good.
Thank you. That this is an industry sea change, not just for Tableau, but for drag and drop analytics as a whole, for what many are now calling legacy BI, which is such a thing because it was so exciting.
Right.
You remember back when I had my blog and it was exciting to figure out all of the calculations and you could be cool if you could say, do a table calculation. And now those days are over, right? So
solving puzzles, right?
I guess, Matthew, what I'm most interested to get to is, where does Tableau fit in this new era of AI? And what does it look like for Tableau to remain or not remain the front end touch point, the control plane for analytics to the business user?
I mean, my first Tableau conference was here in 2012. I read your blog. I learned a lot from you and others that you work with. I know you've got some legends on your team.
Yeah, thanks.
Like Jonathan Drummy, Robert Rouse, and good friends. And I wouldn't say drag and drop analytics is over. In fact, we have not been strictly drag and drop analytics for quite a while. We've had things like Pulse and Agent and other conversational experiences, and we've expanded into trust with catalog and prep and embedding and Teams integration. So I think we've been seeing that sea change coming even before the large language model conversational AI revolution. I think that the transformation that's happening now, though, of course, is at a pace that's just tremendous. I mean, everyone's feeling it.
It's astounding.
It's changing very fast. And we know we have to react to it and adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. So if a business user in a large enterprise can get a sufficient answer far faster chatting with a bot, where does that leave the traditional analytics workflow? And what are the pieces in the traditional analytics workflow that still require Tableau?
I think every analytical question is some kind of a translation from something in our minds. Like I would say natural language is also itself, it's lossy. Like it is not perfect. There's some question that we're looking for the answer to, that if we can get the answer and find an insight, we can take an action, and that action is different or better than the previous actions we would have taken, and therefore we transform it. That's the whole thesis of analytics. The original Tableau 1.0 was just one way of making a leap forward. But drag and drop is one, I would call it the love languages of data. It's just one way for me to go from, I'm wondering why sales are down. I wonder how this business unit is doing. I wonder what's going on with our supply chain. And then translating that into something that can get you that answer. When I discovered Tableau, it was the most fluid, easy to use way I'd ever experienced for asking that question of any data. And now, when someone experiences conversational AI and they're like, wow, it gave me the answer. Well, that's just simply another way to go from, I have this question, to that answer. So I see them all as on-roads, like the different ways that people interact with data, code, spreadsheets, notebooks, canvases, as just different love languages of data. And so we're trying to make sure that we speak all those love languages of data, like the analytics runtime for trusted answers. But the other question that was in that question is, okay, they can get an answer fast, but can they get an answer they trust? And can they then, the thing that Tableau is great at, scale that answer across, 40,000 salespeople, 20,000 store locations, like trust with governance and scale and row level security and all that stuff. And so I think that's what we bring to the table, is we've always had that exploration side that you can then seamlessly in one platform deploy across the entire organization. Like that ad hoc to scaled is a thing that I think we uniquely do really well. We've got to make sure that if the new ad hoc is conversational AI, we have to have an amazing experience there. And then we've got the analytics runtime already that will scale that across the organization.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the vibe coding
Yes.
Can be considered ad hoc. And I wonder where are the places that begins to fall down at scale. And there's many teams and many organizations that are really trying to rethink their analytics workflow. They're trying to wonder, where can I substitute in agentic programming, these types of things. What are the pieces and parts of the analytics workflow that has been the de facto for the last 5-10 years that can be removed? And what are you seeing as evidence of that?
So the whole thing that made Tableau revolutionary is it took the answers to the questions and the tools for answering the questions out of the domain of strictly IT or some other BI team. Like there was this gap, often layers of people, between the person with the curious question, the answer to which, if they could get it quickly in the moment,
of bureaucracy.
Right, loads of bureaucracy. And at its worst, Tableau is sometimes used that way at our customers. Right? When the data culture is poor, the tool's not going to change a bad data culture. Well, we've said this for years, right? It's people, process, and tools. Buying Tableau doesn't make you data-driven any more than buying a Peloton makes you fit. And so the transformation that we're seeing now is business users are saying, okay, the love language that we want to have with data now that gets us so close to the answer is not drag and drop anymore.
Right.
Like analysts love that. Okay, we want to just use natural language, but it's the same problem. I'm the person with the problem close to the data. I know the problem. I know the questions. If I could just get the answer right now, I could do something better. And so at its worst, BI is this barrier to that. But at its best, we are that unlock for everyone. So the opportunity for natural language and conversational analytics is, let's get back to that person who has the question. So they don't have to go through 5 steps and fill out a ticket and wait 2 months for a dashboard. But they can go, I got a question, but I can get that answer in a way that I trust. I can know it's the right answer.
Trust is key.
Right? Which means you have to have this foundation of semantics and scale. And then inevitably, right, if an executive makes a dashboard, they're not going to support the dashboard. And the dashboard will not scale. So we have to let them sort of prototype and capture with vibe coding, if you will, right? Or the equivalent of vibe coding in analytics. But then they've got to have a way to scale that.
To process that through so that it can run for the entire enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're thinking about right now is like analytics vibe coding that scales. And vibe coding is in quotes, right? It isn't really vibe coding. It's conversational.
Conversational, exploratory, requirements analysis.
Right. And particularly unique to us, of course, is the visual component to that. Like what made it, like just go back to the drag and drop experience we first discovered is you didn't have to like spend all day wrestling with writing a SQL statement and then run it and wait and then get the results, sort of on in stone. Right. And then have to go back and, what did I do wrong? The Tableau instantly responds. Right.
And that was a massive disruption.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Because now you could see it. It wasn't even necessarily like most of the vizzes I make internally are not Iron Viz winning. Right. They're not beautiful, but they let me just quickly see. Oh, I see. There's an outlier.
It fires the synapse. Though.
That's it. Right. It's that pre-attentive processing, the data visualization science at the core of Tableau, the research behind it, still true. Human brains still work the same way. Like that tapping into the GPU of the mind is there. So what does that look like in a conversational world where most of those experiences are largely all text? And there's starting to be some new things like MCP apps, but they're largely all text. And text is a form of visualization. But is there something we can do in that context where a user says, I want to be in a conversational context first, but I want the instant feedback loop of the visuals and trusted visuals.
Yeah, that cycle of visual analytics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put another way, it's I was on a panel a while ago and someone asked, what do you see about AI trends? It was a very high-minded, kind of lofty question. And I was tempted to give a marketing answer, and then I just couldn't. And so I'm proud of this answer. It was just one of those things of frustration. I said, you know what? Maybe it's just our customers, but I think most people just want a bar chart they can believe in.
Right.
Right.
Honestly. Right. If you give me that.
Right. All the other stuff's great.
Right.
But if I can't have that,
there's
no trust. I don't need all the fancy conversational whiz bang stuff. So pay attention closely in the keynote. And like the keynote that you have just seen and Devs on Stage that I believe you'll see tomorrow, there's a lot of that interactive, visual, but surfaced in a whole bunch of context that you wouldn't think of as Tableau. I actually would be fine if in the long run, no one ever goes to Tableau anymore.
Right.
I'd be totally fine if you don't have to like log into a Tableau and to leave your applications and then go find the insight.
Well, this is one of the things yesterday I was with Christian Saavedra.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And his thesis is that the chase is to the front end, to the user, because if the chat agent AI can be the interface to the user, then everybody forgets about what's behind, right? And then you've lost the contact with the end user. And this was the disruption that Tableau brought to the bureaucracy, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And now Tableau itself is being disrupted in similar ways. And
we've always had competitors and we welcome them.
Yeah. So the competitive landscape is changing. The technology landscape is changing. One of the things that I'm curious about is in this recent year, 2 years, what are the core beliefs, because Tableau disrupted for a reason,
Mhm.
right? You reference back to VizQL and the core thesis and the integration of the two PhDs that came together to produce the product.
Yep.
A lot of really strongly held core beliefs about how analytics should function. I believe some of those must be being challenged now. What are some of the core beliefs about how analytics should function that you maybe have needed to rethink?
Well, I've heard people say data visualization is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But
It was a
again,
wave.
It was a fad for sure, and we benefited from it. But actually, interestingly enough, you look back at like the original research that Dr. Chris Stolte did at Stanford, the original even marketing material for Tableau was not predominantly about visualization. Like the purpose, visualization was the way to let your brain quickly understand, but it was about shortening that feedback loop, cutting out the steps, and ideally letting the one person with the question very quickly make their way through that cycle of visual analytics. And over time, you've ended up with, some of our customers have a IT team and then a data engineering team and an analytics engineering team, an analytics ops team, and then BI project
For scale, they
managers.
almost have to have.
You have to, right? And I understand the process is important, of course. However, it is possible to take a tool like Tableau that is aimed at that kind of unlock and to deploy it in a way that is so governed and locked down and controlled that you take that away. And the power that we're continuing to chase is how can we use whatever technological advances we can make or find or license or leverage to cut down that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So the person with the curious question that could transform the organization could go from question to answer and insight to action really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is one of the things where I think there's a lot of opportunity because as revolutionary as it was, Tableau Desktop now is seen as a bit of a crutch, right? Like I used to be cool for having figured out how to do all those calculations. And now I just get so frustrated when you're making me do the sixth right click in a row, I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
So what do we do in order to reduce and shrink the interaction effect?
Yeah. I learned Tableau on version 6.1 and it was a much more simple product. It was very easy to learn. Over time, it's become it's a double-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse because we have the most powerful and robust, I believe, analytics runtime on the market. You can do anything with Tableau. And with that, it can be a little overwhelming, right? The learning curve has gotten steeper.
Starting with an empty canvas.
Empty canvas, it's tremendously powerful. So we really are rethinking desktop. A desktop is the most widely adopted analytical IDE in the world. It is used by millions and millions of users. So if that's the case, and what they're doing really is exploring and then creating assets, analytical assets, not just visualizations, not just dashboards, but semantic models and metrics that they're going to share and distribute with others, take their context and all that and go, great, I've answered this question once, now I can give it to a whole team so they can answer it at scale. Then we have to do as much as possible so that going from the thing I want to having it executed is not 500 clicks or 50 clicks, but it's like 10. And
shrink the number of clicks.
I think the wrong thing to do would be to remove all that functionality and simplify it because that functionality exists for a reason. Like we've got all the edge cases. It's like SQL is like this, enormous spec now, but you can ask any question of data, but it's a lot to learn. What are the on-ramps we can provide from other love languages of data? So if I ask a question conversationally, can we create an agent that can then go and build all that stuff for you or partner with you? Like where you set the level of autonomy that you want, whether it's all handmade, artisanal analytics, as I call it, has that new Viz smell, the Iron Viz kind of stuff, which we are amazing at, or the kind of world where I just go, I need this. And 3 new analytical apps appear and the metrics define themselves and you check it, you go, yep, ship it. That's what people love when they vibe code a dashboard. And 99% of the time the dashboard is wrong. It's connected to a CSV. It stops working the minute you close your laptop. It doesn't scale. There's no governance. You create more tech debt than you create answers and insights. And so we're trying to find that medium where you can go use this analytical runtime, but sort of vibe code it if you like, because you can have the best tools in the world and still make decisions by what I call gut or golf course. So I think the opportunity now, as it always has been, to take advantage of the technology to help people transform themselves, their organizations, and the world. That's the mission of Tableau.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll be curious to see how it unfolds.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's time for action.
It's time for